using horror film characters to shatter your shadows. There are so many tools that you can use when you are trying to work on your shadows or your beliefs or your stories. And I'm going to try and bring some of the ones that I've used that have helped me along the way. Some of them may be weird. Some of them may not really appeal to you or feel like it's something that you can use. However, I think that I still need to let everyone know about the different types that are out there and how the different ways we can use our imagination and our own knowledge and our own stories and our own experience to create whatever's going to work for us. Hey, I'm Anna. I am an alchemist, consciousness creator, artist, and all-round weirdo who is here to bust forward some pretty crazy ideas and thought patterns and to generally help you to get out of the be like everyone else syndrome. So this is kind of a weird one that I use, and it's based on my not liking of horror movies. So there has always been something about horror movies and certain characters that just creep me out. Violence and all that, that's fine, but when they have those children standing there with their hair in front of their face and they're not moving and they're not doing anything, or those weird characters that are moving their body and contorting it down the stairs with, you know how they take out those frames and it's doing that. Yeah, I'm not doing a very good example of it, but you know what I mean. That scares the crap out of me. So all those different characters that scare me, or the ones that I don't like to look at, or the ones that I've always thought, I don't want to look at that, I'm not watching that, I've turned them into like my team of shadows, my team of monsters. And they are the ones who sort of sit behind me and have come out when they wanted to be seen. Now, because I have worked so much on healing before, and I feel like I've learned a lot of different modalities and a lot of different tools, this was sort of like an end piece for me. So this is where I had done some of the work already on them. I had already sort of brought to the surface some of the main feelings or topics or whatever it was, or whatever the shadow or the belief was. I already had some sort of knowledge of it. It wasn't fresh, it wasn't new. It was something that had been there, something that I had looked at, but the creation of these characters was allowing me to see them just that little bit more deeper. So then what would happen is, if I was feeling in a certain mood or a certain way, or was having a certain reaction to a situation or something that was going on within myself, outside of myself, something wasn't working the way that I wanted, if I could see what that theme was or what that idea was, I was able to attribute that to one of those characters or one of those horror figures that I don't like. So for simplicity's sake, let's just say you had a skeleton and you related that to your fear of public speaking. So when you were faced with a situation where you had to go and speak in front of public, you could see that as your skeleton, and that would be your avatar for that shadow or that fear that you were holding on to. So for me, when those things were coming up, I would allow that character, and so if we're using that example of the skeleton, we would ask that skeleton to come in front and speak to us. So then we could actually face that skeleton head on, and even though normally that would be something that we were super scared of, we would then be able to sit down and talk or listen to that skeleton, just like we were having a conversation with a person. So we could be like, oh, hey, Mr. Skeleton, what's happening? Why are you so scared? And then you could literally go down that whole rabbit hole with that skeleton of all those things that skeleton was scared of. So if we're using that skeleton as a fear of speaking in public, why? Why are you scared of speaking in public? If you wanted to, you could go through, when has that made you feel like that before? What is the worst thing that can happen if you go through with doing this thing that you're so scared of? And just go down the hole and see what that skeleton wants to say to you. You will find that skeleton's got a lot to say. It will have things that it wants to talk about. It will have other emotions or stories. It will have other circumstances and things that it wants to talk about. But what we're doing is we're allowing that fear, that shadow, that belief to fully be seen. And so for me, creating that character created like an actual person that could sit down and talk to, just like you would if you were talking to a friend or family member. It's like having that conversation to see what the real issue was and see why they were so scared of it. And most of the time what happens, you will either unveil another layer or another emotion or another fear or another belief or something underneath whatever that fear is, or you will be able to talk it out with that skeleton, we're using that example, and find a way to disprove what they're feeling. Find a way to really have a look at what their actual fears are and what's that worst case scenario. Feel it out, and if you need to, actually feel it in your body. And I can talk about that in another video. But once you're able to really sort of talk it out with that skeleton and get it all out, disprove what they're saying and what they're feeling, you're going to walk away from that little conversation friends with that skeleton. So me talking to all these creepy characters that I've created in my mind, not only has it helped me be able to see that fear or that belief or whatever it is that I've been afraid of, I'm now friends with it. And the bonus is now I can watch those actual things on a horror video or movie if I want to, because I'm not scared of that avatar or that creation or that creature anymore. And these are not sort of mainstream ideas that people talk about when they're healing. There's so many other ways we can do things and so many other tools we can utilize once we sort of get that knowledge of so many things out there. But what I want to bring to you is that you can create your own process that works for you. For me, I was killing two birds with one stone. I was removing a fear of something that wasn't even real, like their movie characters. Like, come on, Anna, what's wrong with you? But then putting that hand in hand with something that is an actual fear or an actual shadow or an actual belief that I really want to work through or get along with or move on from, creating that avatar or that character has been able to allow me to see them in the way that they really want to be seen. And now we're actually friends. So I'm not afraid anymore. So I don't hold that belief or that fear or that shadow anymore because it's gone. It's all done. It's all over with. We've had the discussion, we've gone to the places, we've done all the healing, and there's more layers to this if you need to, depending on, sort of what the fear is and what your layers are. Everyone's individual, of course, but you can then use, if you need to, other tools as well to help you to remove whatever it is that comes up when you have that conversation with your monster or your horror avatar. And you can even create Disney characters if you want it. You can do whatever you want. You can create actual objects. It's just something that's going to work with you, because we have that power of using our imagination in hand with the knowledge and the tools that we already know or already in our system. So now that I've been able to do all that work with them, they don't come up anymore. They're not there anymore. Occasionally you may see a character or something sort of lurking behind, and I'll be like, oh, okay, what's this? And then I will allow them to come out and talk to them, because sometimes it can be just an image. It can be like a made-up monster or some sort of character that you can see in the corner of your eye when you're in the middle of something else, and you're like, oh, okay, something's coming up here. Let's sit down. Let's talk it out. Let's see if we can, find a way for us to both to find common ground, because that monster, that avatar, that fear, that shadow, it's there because it just wants to keep you safe. It's just there because it just wants you to stay the same. It doesn't want you to change. It doesn't want you to grow. But once we allow it, we hear it, we feel it, we see it, we disprove it, and we love it. You can literally shake hands with that character. You can give it a big hug. You can do whatever it is you want, whatever is that process that's going to work for you to make you believe that you have now been able to alchemize whatever this fear, story, belief, shadow is, and for you to now be friends with whatever this avatar or character that you have created. You're going to accept that because you've created that process. So try it. Tell me what you can do. Tell me what you have created to help you work through some of these things.